Good morning and welcome to Compass Daily. Today is Friday, and that means we are wrapping up our week and also wrapping up our conversation on Sabbath. Today we're going to be talking about some very practical ways that we can incorporate Sabbath into our own lives. We're so glad that you've decided to join us this morning.
Good morning. Let's get our hearts in the right place as we begin our day together. Sing this with me. He's coming on the clouds. Kings and kingdoms will bow down, and every chain will break, 'cause broken hearts declare His praise. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is alive, the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before Him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, every knee will bow before Him. Oh, every knee will bow. So open up the gates, make way before the King of Kings. Our God who comes to save is here to set the captives free. So who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is alive, the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before Him. Our God is a Lamb, the Lamb that was slain for the sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, every knee will bow before Him. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord? Our God is alive, the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before Him. Our God is a Lamb, the Lamb that was slain for the sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, every knee will bow before Him. Oh, every knee will bow.
Hey Compass, welcome to Compass Daily. My name is Rory and I'm one of the pastors here, and I am joined by my friend Laura Collins.
Hello.
Who is our creative director here at Compass. And all week, this week on Compass Daily, we have talked about this idea of Sabbath, what it means to rest, sort of the backbone behind it, why we do it, where we get the idea from. And what we're going to do for the next 10, 12 minutes is just have a conversation about Sabbath to hopefully make some of the concepts we've talked about very practical for you, right? It's Friday, so we are at the end of the week. This weekend might be the best time for you as a family or as an individual to think about Sabbath for the very first time, to intentionally rest. So a couple of things we want to talk about. Laura, I know you have sort of some values that we can think about as we might be preparing to get ready to Sabbath. What are some of those, and would you share them with us?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the week, I kind of talked through this book that I picked up a few weeks ago. It's called The Sabbath, and full disclosure, I think it was written in the 50s, but the principles in this like scarily applied to today. Yeah. And one of the best things that I took away from this book was how to actually plan for your Sabbath. It's not just a thing that happens to us, right?
You don't just wake up one day.
You don't wake up one day and decide to Sabbath,
okay,
right? Because this is a holy day. God has ordained and anointed this day to be his and yours, time spent together. So you have to plan for that. You don't just walk into work with having no idea what you're going to do, right? You plan it out. And one of the best ways you can plan it out is to eliminate distractions, which to me, and he says it here, is technology. Now, I'm not suggesting we like turn off electricity and like live by candles for a day. I mean, you can do that. That actually sounds kind of lovely. But you just start by eliminating the distractions. Turn off social media, biggest one. Maybe you don't Netflix and just like binge every TV show you've always wanted to. Maybe you're not playing video games. What are the things in your life that are distracting you from God on a daily basis?
What's interesting is, as you even give some of those examples, is it makes me think that rest for some of us we might have to redefine what rest actually is. Because for so many of us, right, we say, I rested today. I like laid on the couch all day and watched Netflix. I did nothing with no purpose, so therefore I rested.
And that's how I've defined rest for, my entire life. Was this idea of like, I have nothing to do today. Sabbath. Like, that's how I would essentially qualify that. Yeah. But as we've learned this week, like, it's a holy experience. It's a spiritual experience to truly Sabbath. It's so much more than just, like you said, not having anything on your calendar for a day. So you have to be intentional with eliminating distractions, and then to free yourself from those 6 previous days of work. So whatever that means for you, like for me, that means I'm going to turn off my work emails. I'm going to turn off my Teams notifications. I am going to try to let everyone know, like, hey, this is a day of Sabbath. If you have an emergency, of course you can call me, you can text me, but I'm putting on my out of office notification. Even if it's on a weekend, just do it. Like, pick the easiest way to let everyone in your life know I am freeing myself from work and freeing myself from these distractions just so I can have an encounter with God.
Yeah, so good. For some people, that might even look like, Thursday night or Friday night, whenever your night before you sort of take this moment, it might look like sitting down and journaling through the past week and marking some of those moments and saying, hey, this was work this week, but work is now done. Yeah. Work is done. We've talked about it. I've thought through it, the anxiety that came with it, the stressors, the enjoyment, the fulfillment, it's gone. We're setting it aside. It's not to be forgotten, but right now we're setting it to the side, and I'm going to focus on resting. That's so good.
Which is huge. That's actually a big part of what he talks about in this book too, is that this is a break from anger, from hostility. This isn't a day where we go back and just reflect on all the ways we messed up this week. This is a day for celebration. It's a day for peace. Good. It's a day where the Holy Spirit can truly guide you through a relationship with God, which is through praise. Like, we're praising God on a Sabbath. This isn't a day for remorse or for mourning. That time happens throughout the week. Yeah. You have 6 days to mourn, to be anxious, to do all the things that can distract us from where God wants to take us. Yeah. And then on the Sabbath is the day where you get to break from that and have peace and invite that into your life. And again, I think that all happens by eliminating those distractions that can come up. Another distraction that I thought was interesting in here was the distraction of money, of spending money. Because that's an idol for, I would guess, most of us. It's an idol for me. It's so tempting on a day off to be like, I'll just hop on Amazon. I'll hop on whatever online shopping
quick Target
platform.
Run.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Target to de-stress. Like, that's a fun errand, right? And we eliminate that because that's putting that idol back at the forefront of our minds instead of focusing back on God. So that leads to the next part, which is, again, just to plan out your Sabbath. Which for me, I took a Sabbath a few weeks ago. I picked a Wednesday and I was like, I'm going to just dedicate this day. I read this book and I was like, I'm doing everything this book has told me to do. I'm going to experiment because I'm terrible at it. I'm terrible at resting. And I did that. I planned out my meals for the day. I put my out of office on. I made sure that I didn't need to spend money on that day. There was nothing that was going to come up that I would be like, oh, I need to go buy that.
Yeah.
Even if something came up on Amazon, okay, great. I'll just take a note on my phone and I will purchase that another day. But I'm not going to fall into this trap of things that normally distract me from God. And it really just clears your mind out. Like we heard Josh talk about earlier in the week, that when you're quiet, God can finally speak and you can finally hear it. So what's causing noise in your life and what can you do to eliminate it? And money is a huge one in that way. So plan out your meals. I also was like, I need a book to read. So I picked out a book the day before and was like, I'm going to read this book. I picked Big Dreams by Bob Goff and it was incredible. And you just like tore through it in a day. And that's stuff I don't normally do when I'm just like falling into a day of rest.
Yeah.
But I've always thought you'd have a good Sabbath routine, because that's something I think you were actually maybe one of the people who told me to get this book.
Yeah, great book.
You have a routine on how you take rest. So what does that look like?
Yeah, so I mean, first off, I would say my wife and I try to have a routine, right? So like my wife and I have a 1-year-old, 14 months, I think. It's just all a blur.
He's 14
It's
months.
just all a blur. So like figuring out how to Sabbath looks far different now than it did before we had kids, right? It's a completely different thing. For us, Sabbath is usually Friday or Saturday. Those are the 2 days that we typically have off. We're both off on those days. So there's a little bit of freedom there. For us, we start early in the morning. A lot of people, if you hear talk about Sabbath, talk about starting it the night before and going 24 hours through. We start on the day of. What that typically looks like for me is I'm going to start the morning with some form of, quiet time to myself. So it's going to be me sitting in silence with the scriptures, praying, maybe 30 minutes to an hour, right? So this is not my way of saying, hey, you need to spend 12 hours out of the 24 like in your Bible. That's actually not what the Sabbath is about. It's not about doing a bunch of religious work so that you feel, more righteous about yourself. But I start the day that way, really just trying to say to God, I know you've already set this day apart, like you've made it holy, but help me make this day as holy as it can possibly be. Help it be as aligned with what you have created me to be as much as possible. So it typically starts that way. What we try to do is eat meals at home, although again, you have a kid, it's not always that easy, whatever. I would say the hardest thing for us has been the not spending money thing on those days, right? Because it's our day off, so it's also the day that we can like go out to restaurants and do that. And so we've sort of made Saturday mornings a tradition. We go to Doughboy Donuts now in Fort Worth. So that's become sort of a part of that. And I would say the biggest thing for us is the difficulty of when you do a Sabbath once, it can feel like, oh my gosh, I did it. I took time off, like I rested, and then like
that's exactly how.
And then like next thing you know, 3 or 4 weeks go by, and you're like, oh, I should probably consider doing that again. My wife and I we just went out of town for a little bit to be with her family, and we shut our emails off and went dark and everything, and we were like, oh man, we feel so rested. And I walked away just going, I feel like vacations have sort of become like the excuse to not practice this, because we go like a whole year and work and almost burn out. Right. And then we take a vacation right when you're at the edge and you're like, okay, I guess I can start over again. But I think God has created this thing called Sabbath so that you have a rhythm in your life where you don't get even close to burnout. You can avoid it by having that Sabbath. So all that to say, we try to cook together for dinner that night whenever we have Sabbath, because cooking is something I love to do. My wife hates cooking with me, but we try to make it happen in that space. Yeah. And we honestly just try to do things that bring fulfillment to us. So it might be reading a book all day. It might be going on a hike or going on a walk. It might be, if you're an extrovert, what brings you fulfillment might be having a dinner party with your friends and entertaining them. If you're an introvert, that sounds like the definition of hell to you, to have all those people in your house and you want to go sit and be quiet. And the beautiful thing is that Sabbath is made for that. to you to step into the things that make you who you are, and live those out, because those are the things that bring you rest and they fill you back up. They don't drain you more. Often we've had you or Mish or friends on staff come over during those days, because those sorts of things are energizing to us. I think the thing I would challenge anyone watching this with Sabbath is that you're never gonna get it right until you try. Because I know what's happening. Like, you're hearing us two talk about this and you've listened all week and you're going, I just don't know when I could pull that off. And the bottom line is you can. It's just really going to be hard to figure it out the first time. But once you find your niche of going, man, you know what? Thursdays from like 2 p.m. until Friday the next morning, I have free time. I have space. Which means that you could use that intentionally as a Sabbath. But you have to start somewhere. You have to sort of take the step and go, I'm going to take a day off even just to figure out how do I make this a rhythm in my life. But you guys, it's so significant and so full of life when you can figure out how to get it right. And I don't say this as someone who gets it right. I say this as someone who's just trying to figure it out. I think for me, I've looked at generations that are older than me, family members, close friends, and I've watched them burn out so often. And I just don't want that for myself. And I would imagine if you're watching this right now, you're thinking the same thing, right? I love my job, or I want to do work that's meaningful and keep going for as long as I can. And I think Josh said it earlier this week too, willpower is not going to allow you to have that longevity, but the Spirit resting, finding the silence and Sabbath is going to help you do that.
Absolutely. Well, I think that about wraps up our conversation on Sabbath this week. I hope it's been encouraging. I hope it's kind of broken down the word Sabbath and made it a little less intimidating. It's not for the religious elite. It's not for the highest pastors.
Sure.
It's for all of us, no matter
Sure.
what stage of life we're in. If you are in retirement, if you're in high school, if you are anywhere in between, this is for you. Everyone deserves a Sabbath because we all need time spent with God on his holy day. So.
That's good.
Hope that this has encouraged you, and we will see you back here next week as we continue in a new theme for Compass Daily. And until then, have a great weekend.